Welcome to another episode of Doggy Dilemmas. Today we're going to meet Michelle Grimes, who is the Canine Behavior Manager of the Northern New England Dog Rescue, located out of Vermont. And she has with her a little cute pitty dog named Lilly Bean. Lilly Bean is 10 months old, and she has shown some not so nice behavior to some other dogs. So we're going to be taking a look at that today and seeing how we can help Michelle and Lilly Bean out.
Denise Mazzola is a certified professional dog trainer with over 20 years experience training dogs and people. If you've got a doggy dilemma, Denise can help.
Great to see you again, Michelle.
You too.
So tell me about Lilly Bean here.
Lily is about 8 months old,
Okay.
from what we gather. She was a rescue from Kentucky.
Yes.
Her and her sister were brought up at about 10 weeks old.
Okay.
Both of them came down with Parvo very quickly, were hospitalized for about 2 weeks. Her sister did not make it. Lily made it and ended up coming home with me to be fostered.
Okay.
And was asked to be quarantined for about 45 days after she left the hospital for the virus.
So she came up at 10 weeks. She was hospitalized pretty close after that for 2 weeks, and then a quarantine period for 45 days. So
Yes.
about a month and a half.
Yep.
Okay.
So she came home with us where she was living with 2 other adult dogs
Okay.
and then 2 people.
Okay. And what are the issues that you're most concerned about with her today?
Other than the dogs that meeting other dogs, she seems to be very hesitant. Her hair stands up, and she seems to act maybe, I don't know, a little fearful or dominant.
Okay.
And
So she hesitates at first.
she does hesitate at first.
Okay.
She will do something similar to what she's doing, the barking or the chuffing or woofing.
Yep.
The hair will stand up, and she will not generally charge the dog, but will walk over very stiffly.
Okay.
And we've had a couple incidences with smaller dogs, actual puppies, 10, 12 weeks old, where she has not acted favorably.
Okay, so describe that for me.
She met a 8 or 10 week old puppy and proceeded to basically lay on top of it and hold it down.
Okay. Was there any sort of sniffing, or did she just charge up? Like, draw me a picture with words. Did she just charge up?
There was no sniffing. She was a little hesitant at first. She did some growling and, staring at the dog, and then went right over to it immediately, put her paw on the dog, put the dog down to the ground, the puppy down to the ground, and then just proceeded to hold it there.
Okay.
Quite honestly, it was a little hard to tell that the puppy was obviously very scared and was making a lot of noise, so it was hard to tell who was making more of the noise. But it was.
But when the puppy screamed or yelped, she didn't stop?
No.
She didn't get off? Okay. Did it seem to rev her up more?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the second incident with the puppy?
We were at a training class, and there was a 14-week-old puppy there. Lily was off leash and ran immediately over to the puppy and proceeded to do the same thing. Put her paw over it, pushed the puppy down to the ground, held her there. I ended up taking Lily away, and she slipped her collar and made a beeline right back for the puppy and did the same thing.
Okay. And have you tried anything? What did you do? And if you did anything, what did you do on either of these occasions?
The first occasion, somebody else picked the puppy up, and we removed the puppy from the situation.
Okay.
And that was inside a house. The second occasion, I put her back on leash and removed both her and the puppy away from each other. I put her kind of behind a vehicle so that she couldn't see the puppy anymore.
Okay. Okay. And how about when you're out for walks? Do you walk her with a leash and collar? Do you have any other equipment?
Just a leash and collar right now. She's doing very well walking next to us. We have done walks with the dogs that we live with, but no other, well, no, that's not true. Our neighbors have 2 dogs, and she has met both of them when she's been off a leash.
Okay.
They're larger dogs. One's a German Shepherd mix, and the other is probably a 50-pound mix.
Okay.
She still goes over to them, but can't quite get her head up over their shoulders.
Okay.
And if we're walking on leash and we're all next to each other, she's fine. But if she can't get to them, then that's a problem. She wants to be right there with them.
So if you're walking with your neighbor's dogs and she can't access them, she can't touch them or smell them.
Then she gets kind of wound up a little bit in the beginning. Once
Okay.
we've been on the walk for 10 minutes or so, everybody's fine. She doesn't care where she is.
Okay. Okay.
But if our neighbors are walking down towards us with their dogs on leash and we're walking towards them, it's a tremendous.
Okay, so kind of, I gotta get there.
I gotta get there. Yeah.
Okay, so and what about if you're out with her and there's other dogs walking around? Have you run into that on a
Not
trail?
really.
or-
No, not yet. When driving, if she sees another dog, she'll kind of do the little chuffing
Okay.
and the growling.
Okay. From in the car, even though
from
you're
in the
driving
car,
by.
yeah.
Okay.
And we'll do that sometimes with, just strangers or strange people, but
Okay.
generally people, she's been fine. There hasn't really been an issue. It's just when.
Okay. And has it been that you've happened to not find other dogs when you're out walking her, or are you avoiding finding other dogs?
Right now, avoiding it.
Okay.
Until I know what to do.
Okay. Okay, so let's just go over some things. She's an 8-month-old dog, so she's in the throes of adolescence. Any other, what's her energy level like? How much exercise does she get in the course of a day? She's a young terrier pitty mix that generally has a lot of energy.
It's interesting because she has never been what I would call a normal hyper puppy.
Okay. And she's pretty calm right now.
This is Lily. This
Okay.
is the way she's been since I've had her out of the hospital.
Okay.
If you want to play and you want to get her wound up, she'll play.
Right.
If you want to hang out and just sit on the couch and read, then she's fine.
Okay.
So to me, it was a little abnormal just because she's been so quiet compared to what I'm normally used to as
Right.
far as a puppy goes.
Okay. And you had stated earlier that you brought her home from the veterinary hospital to foster her.
Yes.
So are you fostering or are you keeping?
I am keeping her now.
Okay.
I am a foster failure.
Well, or a foster success. It's
Yes,
not unusual
I know.
to foster a dog or a cat and then fall in love and
Yep.
never give them back. So that's great. So she's the latest addition. And tell me again, who does she live with successfully in terms of dogs?
When she first came home from the hospital, she was living with my 9.5-year-old Doberman,
Okay.
male, and our 8-year-old American Staffordshire Terrier, also a male.
Okay.
Our Doberman passed away 2 months ago, and we have since started to foster another 10-month-old male pit bull mix.
Okay.
She never had a problem with my first 2 original dogs, the Doberman, Zeus, and the Amstaff, Sydney. But again, she was, 16 weeks
Okay.
old at that point.
Okay.
Diesel, the newest foster addition to the family, came about 2 weeks ago. And there was the initial, I just let them go in the house and thought they'd sort it out. And she kind of, growled and grumbled at him a little bit, and he's so playful, and that was it, and they've been totally fine ever since.
Okay. Do you remember what the 2 puppies were that she had a hard time with? Were they males or females?
One was a male Chow Shepherdy mix.
Okay.
The other was a female, possibly German Pointer,
Okay.
short-haired German Pointer mix.
Okay. Okay, so she's an 8-month-old in the throes of adolescent. Her history is pretty classic for dogs that are having issues with other dogs, in that your rescue organization acquired her at 10 weeks, excuse me. And do you know anything about where she was living prior to that?
No idea.
Okay, so does your rescue go to another rescue or a shelter in Kentucky, or?
We work with one particular shelter in Kentucky.
Okay.
I don't know. It was her and her sister. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that they were found in a box in a parking lot.
Okay.
So I don't know.
So it's pretty safe to say that from birth to 10 weeks of age, she probably had no socialization. And socialization meaning she didn't have a lot of contact with people, with men, women, children, hats, sunglasses, baby strollers, bikes, all that kind of stuff. And she clearly didn't have enough socialization with other dogs to learn. It's always interesting to me that we know more about dog language than some dogs do. And she clearly missed doggy body language 101 to be approaching the dogs as she is. And then, so then you get her at 10 weeks where there's still time to socialize her and to get her out in the world and to start some associative learning where she'll see a dump truck, for example, and you'll give her a pile of roast beef so that she makes that positive association, like, oh, great, dump trucks produce, $500 bills. But then she gets sick with Parvo and spends 2 weeks in a veterinary hospital where she's getting poked and prodded and feels horrible, and there's associative learning going on there too, but it's probably not the kind that we want to have happening. It's a little bit on the negative side. And then she comes home and she's quarantined for another month and a half. So she comes home at 3 months of age and still in a very good window to be socialized, and then has to stay home for 45 days. So not unusual that she's having the dog issues that she's having. And of course, I think one of the challenges with Lilly Bean is her breed mix, or what she looks like. I mean, from Kentucky, the dogs could be anything, really, but she has pit bull terrier attributes. Her face is, she's kind of a tiny dog, but she still looks that way. And I know you well enough to know that you want to have dogs that are good ambassadors of the breed. So you don't want her. So then what you're doing is very classic. So you've seen these behaviors from her that are, that they're inappropriate and they're rude with other dogs, and her breed mix. And if it's okay to share, you also were a victim of a very serious dog fight that landed you in the hospital. So you're classically conditioned to being around a dog or holding the leash and having that growl start could throw you into a flashback before you even have any conscious thought about what's going on. So I completely understand, and there's no way to make you do anything different than to just avoid, to just avoid. So there's lots of things at work here. The irony is she needs some exposure to dogs, and the difficulty is going to be in picking and choosing who she gets exposed to, because we want it to be successful, and we want it to be good dogs that will give off the right signals. So let's just talk about that a little bit. Dogs have very ritualized greetings and how they're supposed to greet. And really, most things in a dog's life are geared to prevent fights from happening. So the fact that she's just going up and annihilating the puppy could be for lots of reasons. Fear, I'm going to get it first, ask questions later. Not so brave with the bigger, older dogs, and your bigger, older dogs have very good signals. So she may have understood some of what was going on. So the ritualized greetings are supposed to prevent fights from happening. And dogs aren't supposed to race at each other head to head. They usually will move forward and they'll hesitate. They may arc a little bit, but they won't come right in straight. Once they do get to each other, they'll sniff quickly noses, shoulders, and then they'll sniff rear ends and usually walk in a circle. And then after that, a fight might happen, play might happen, or they just might go their separate ways. But that's a dog's sense of smell is their primary way of gathering information. So to be holding her back from seeing a dog, again, understandably why, and I'd probably do the same thing, is all of a sudden causing her more frustration. And that frustration builds up, and then she growls more, she barks more, she pulls more. And then you reach a point where she's so frustrated she can't meet the other dog. Because when a dog has that kind of frustration, they can quickly tip over into aggression, like, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm here. Blah! And it's just, it's so it just becomes this sort of domino effect, and really teaching her how to greet other dogs. So some of the things that I may suggest, you may actually have to coach Rich in doing, because you may not be able to do them. You may start to have reactions that aren't just going to allow you, no, honey, I don't want you on my lap. I know you're very cute, thank you. So does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is I want to do a couple of assessments with her with other dogs. And the first part we're going to do is with a rude stuffed dog. And I know it sounds funny, but it's a Siberian Husky, which means that his ears are up and his tail is always over his back, and he just stares. And so in the 20 years that I've been doing this, some dogs look at him and say, oh yeah, you're a stuffed dog. And they just go up to him and knock him over and whatever, it's done. And other dogs that have issues, tend to respond to the stuffed dog in the same manner that they would a real dog. And owners report that, oh yeah, that's exactly what he does. Or they'll never come up to the front, they'll only come up around to the back side of the dog, because that's the safe end, and it's also the end with the most information. And some dogs will never approach the other dog until you as the owner will then go up to the other dog, and it somehow seems to signal, oh, the dog is safe, and then the dog will come up. So that's what we're going to do first.
Okay.
Then we're going to bring out my yellow lab, Thor, who's really benign to other dogs, has very good signals. He will stand, what's called stand for investigation, and just let her sniff him if that's what she needs to do. He has all of the appeasement signals down. He may yawn, he may stretch. Like I said, he'll just stand still, and just standing still and doing nothing is an appeasement signal in itself. An appeasement signal being, I'm no threat to you, I'm no fight to you, chill out, that kind of thing. And then from there, we'll see how she does. If I think she needs to see a small stuffed dog, I've got one of those too, but it may not be necessary. And then I have a little terrier myself who's very good with other dogs, can get frustrated at the end of the leash as well. Everything in a dog's world is about come closer, I want to see you, or go away, go away, go away. It's all, and if you watch dog behavior, it's all about sending them away or getting them to come in closer. And so if she's fearful, she may want them to go away, but if she doesn't know how to get them to go away, or if they're not heeding her signals, then she may just go in and get it away by what you've described as sort of pinning it down.
Yeah.
Pinning the other puppies down. Okay. Any questions?
No, I just would like to know what to do so that I don't want her to practice the behavior, which is one of the reasons why I've been avoiding.
Right.
Because I do want her to be a good ambassador of the breed. This is the first time I've had this issue, if you will, personally. So,
right.
I want to make sure I'm doing the best thing for her.
Okay, so as we've just heard, Lilly Bean has a pretty classic history for dogs with dog-to-dog issues, in that she was rescued from Kentucky. She had very poor socialization, which means she did not see a lot of puppies or dogs growing up. Then she came down with the very serious disease of Parvo, was hospitalized for at least 2 weeks, and then quarantined for another month and a half after that. And this was all during prime puppy time, when she should have been out seeing the world and seeing other dogs and learning how to behave with other dogs. So what we're going to do is we're going to see how Lilly Bean behaves with a stuffed dog, a yellow lab named Thor, and a Boston Terrier named Vesta, because each of these dogs will behave differently with Lilly, and it will give us a peek into Lily's behavior and what some of the problems may be. So let's go take a look at that, and we'll be doing that downstairs. Lilly Beaner. So she did a look away. Her tail is flagging. Very high on her toes. So she looks. Can't quite figure it out yet, but it's. Now, when her ears go back, it's more. You want to see the puppy? That's a good girl. That's a good girl. What is that? What is that, Lily? Huh? Honey, it didn't move. Ah, you're not sure. I know. What do you think? Huh? What do you think? Here. And no, we're not rewarding her growling behavior. We're forming, Lily, forming associations. Look, Lily, look. I know, very confusing. Very confusing. What do you think? What do you think? Huh? Huh? It smells like garage. Hmm? You're still not sure though, are you? No, you're still not sure. Good girl. Good girl. Yes. Oh, and so is this the same thing that you've seen?
Yes.
Yep. So still not really processing fake dog. She's confused. She's not getting a lot of information back, except for when I move them. But see how she keeps, like she won't let him sort of come around. Come here, Beaner. I want to see if we can get sniffing. See how she keeps cutting him off? Mm-hmm. Let's see if I hold her. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is we've seen her reaction with the stuffed dog. Mm-hmm. And some of it, I think, looked familiar to you, that's the same thing that you've seen before.
Yes.
Okay. So because it's raining outside, we're going to be in here. I'll hold the leash. We'll have Emily just bring Thor out of the bedroom, and she's just going to stand there with him so she can see him and he can see her.
Okay.
And then at some point, I'll probably tell her to take him off leash.
Okay.
Thor has very good dog skills. He won't challenge her. He won't race up to her if he doesn't think that that's something that should happen. And we'll just sort of go from there. But I'll have her leash so you don't have to worry about that. But she likes being with you. Okay. Whenever you're ready, Emily. So, Lilly Beaner. Beaner. So go ahead, just unhook him from the leash so he can make choices. So he's doing some avoiding, sniffing. This is his house, but sniffing is a cutoff signal to say, I'm not a threat to you. He's not going to make any direct eye contact with her. See how he arches away from her? Then he turns his head away from her. He came in very zigzaggy. That's not by accident. That's all very conscious on a dog that has good skills. So we haven't had quite a lot of, she's still pretty aroused. Thor, come over here. Thor. So some body blocking on her part happening, there's no play skills. She's controlling where he goes. She's still aroused because you can see the hair is standing up all the way out to her tail. And her tail is up. Oh, she says, you want to sniff me? So there goes a head over his head. That's an appeasement signal of a stretch. Come on back. Oop, oop. So she doesn't know what to do. Here she stands for investigation. Her ears are back, sort of frozen in space, allowing it, not terribly comfortable with it. And then she sort of does this almost a bit of a herding or body blocking thing that she does, trying to See all that? That's not by accident, all that back and forth, cutting them off, cutting them off. Good girl, ladies. Yep, so just kind of walk, just kind of back and forth a little bit. So when they meet, Emily, it's going to be really important that you try to keep Vesta's leash loose. So that doesn't mean she needs all 8 feet. It just means that it needs to have a little slack in it. So let her kind of pick and choose now a little bit where she wants to go. Yeah, that's a terrier. Mm-hmm. Yep, so if she wants to come over, go ahead and let her. So that was some frustration. Come, and keep her leash loose. You're gonna have to do a circle with me.
Walk over here, Em.
Hang on. Come, and keep her leash loose. You're gonna have to do a circle with me.
Walk over here, Em.
Hang on. Come, and keep her leash loose. You're gonna have to do a circle with me.
Walk over here, Em.
Hang on. Stop. So feed her. So just keep her where she is. Thankfully we have a slippery floor. Good girl. Yes, a good girl. Yes, it is. Eat something. Good girl. No, I want to move away from the wall a little bit. And come just this way if I back up. There you go. Keep her leash loose. Keep it loose. Loose. Good girl, Lilly Beans. So what she wants to do, I think, yes, is she wants to tee. All right, so go ahead, just take her back out to the garage. So what that is called, it's teeing. It's very perpendicular, where she just puts her head right over her shoulders like that, and there's nothing friendly about it. That's not a signal of play. Vesta was being very, very good. The little fight happened because Vesta growled at her. Vesta did not like all of that in your face. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. The growl is move away, right? It's all about move away or move closer. She can go right out in the garage if you want. Then Lilly Bean can calm down a little bit. So I'm not so sure it's about size as it is temperament of the other dog.
Okay.
And Vesta has good skills, but not the kind of skills that Thor has.
Right.
And she may, it's hard to say. I can't get inside her head to say whether she says, oh, small dog, I can take advantage of that. But the energy level is very different with 2 terriers. Vesta does a lot of looking at the other dog. There wasn't that head down, sniffing, cut off. And Thor didn't challenge any of this rude behavior that she was doing.
Right.
But Vesta did. Vesta said, I don't like that. Back off. And that's when she was going to go in and say, yeah, let's have a fight about that. Okay, so let's just go back. How, what you saw is that the same kinds of things that you've seen in the past with her?
Yes, absolutely.
And how about with the stuffed dog?
She seemed to be a little bit more cautious and fearful of the stuffed dog than I've seen her.
Okay.
With the small dogs, it was more, or the puppies, it was more just go in and
And be rude.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's always interesting. Dogs, it's not. Dogs are living, breathing, morphing animals, and so what we saw with the stuffed dog tells me that her underlying issue is fear. She had a lot of backward weight. Her ears fluctuated between up and down, but when they're down, and she sort of has that windblown look, that's fear. A wagging tail is irrelevant. It's the position of the tail. And so sometimes it was sky high, and I think most of the times it was sky high. So a sky high tail, but ears back, moving backwards with her weight back, there's some conflict going on. If she were tucked tail, running away, that would be run away and let's fight another day, talk a thing. And she startled on several occasions as if the dog moved, and of course we all know the dog wasn't moving. So, really tense. And she also at one point went up on her toes, went very up on her toes. And then that didn't seem to change the dog's behavior to her, and then she kind of did the ears back, fearful stuff all over again. So clearly conflicted, not a lot of skills, trying to get to the hind end to sniff and get some information. And we saw that even when she did that, she still wasn't really sure what she was seeing or smelling, or it wasn't computing really well. So then the interesting part about bringing out Thor is he is very, very dog savvy. He's 1 in a million in terms of he doesn't really care about other dogs, yet he can read them very well. So all of her direct eye contact with him, vocalizing, pulling on the leash, and her ears up, and all of her body language that she was sending to him, he completely understood, which is why he went back and forth. And when he made his way to her, it was a very zigzag, almost arch kind of motion. He did not come in directly towards her. And for the majority of the time, his head was down sniffing the floor. Now, he lives here, so there's no need for him to sniff the floor. He's here, it's every day.
Right.
And I've cleaned, so there's nothing there. So the sniffing is that appeasement signal to try to cut her off and say, I'm not a threat, chill out, honey, I'm not a threat. So that's all very on purpose from his point. Then they did some sniffing, and then he chose to sort of trot on and maybe go do something else. He wasn't interested in playing. And she, again, was doing a lot of body blocking, absolutely controlling his motion and not letting him move around the room freely at all. He is not going to challenge her, which is why there's not a fight between the two of them. He wouldn't. He would continue to offer cutoff signals until she might have given up. He did stretch at one point, which sort of looks like a play bow, but it's also an appeasement signal. He does that all on his own. It's not anything I've ever taught him. And she still doesn't get it. She's still like kind of after him. Okay, and then the significance of what we saw with Vesta, the Boston Terrier, is that she's very good with other dogs. She's very playful with other dogs, but she's not going to tolerate this amount of rude behavior from another dog that Thor will. So when Lilly Bean got 2 in her face, and I believe she started to tee her the first time, and then the fight started because she growled at her. Remember, it's about coming closer or moving away. She clearly wanted to go closer, and Vesta by her growl was like, move away. And that's all she's waiting for it to have happen so she can go in there and have a fight. And fights can be very reinforcing for some dogs, even though in the natural order of things, fights cost animals a lot. If two wolves in the wild are fighting, someone potentially is going to lose, and they're not going to live to pass on their genetic component. But in some domestic dogs, fighting is very reinforcing. Okay, so we pulled them apart, we tried again, and it's important in this case, for Vesta's leash to be loose, so that she feels like she can make choices and move around and make decisions, and not that she's trapped, because she's the one that's offering the rude behavior. And she, again, went up immediately and teed Vesta, which means she put her head right over her shoulders, which is incredibly rude and always a precursor to a fight, always. And Vesta wasn't going to tolerate that, so we just ended it there. So it's not so much that Vesta is small, it's more the temperament that she won't tolerate her rude behavior. My ideal plan for Lilly would be that she could be with other dogs with good play skills, or with, and she plays with your other 2 dogs well.
Yep.
She plays with them well.
Yep.
And one is
1
8,
is 8, almost 9.
and then the other one's a goofball
10
puppy.
months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So anytime, I mean, this would have to be, what I would suggest would have to be done in a training setting. I don't believe it's anything that you can just go out sort of in the world and do. But
Yeah.
ideally, she's like the Tarzan dog that Jean Donaldson calls as a Tarzan. She just like flies in there. She's rude from the beginning, and boom, she tees. So as soon as we saw that she was going to start to do that, we would time her out. Then we'd give her a warning cue, watch it, watch it. She continued the rude behavior. We'd say, too bad, and then she'd go into a crate for 10 minutes. And all the other dogs would be able to continue to play, but she wouldn't. And then we'd bring her out again until we could start modifying that that rude behavior and start to teach her some calming signals, some other play behaviors until she could be with other dogs. So how about any other questions or concerns?
No, we've done a lot of clicker training, so I think we're on the right path. And she seems to be very smart and really enjoys it. So, you know, we will certainly continue with that and go from there.
Right, okay. You know, the dog issues that she has are not going to, they're not going to change quickly.
Right.
They're just not. And the timeout acts as a punishment for her because she loses everything that she presumably wants, which would be to be interacting in some level with the other dogs, even though it's rude to interact that way. And she has lots of choices. She didn't have to race to the end of her leash to get to the other dog. She could have hung back more like what she did with the stuffed dog and assess things. So her sort of choices of, oh, come closer or move away is more, I'm going to move you away as fast as I can, or just see if I can take care of things. Okay, so it's going to take some time to get her so that she can be with other dogs initially, tolerate other dogs, and then maybe play with other dogs that are outside your home.
Right.
Because she's already adjusted to the resident dogs. They've already established who does what and how, but some new dog is a whole new ballgame.
Right.
Okay, good. Wow, so this has been an exciting episode of Doggy Dilemmas. And Lilly Bean has some very interesting behaviors. Her underlying issue is fear. That was very clear with her behavior with the stuffed dog. All the growling, backing up, weight being backwards. She has no idea really how to behave with another dog. Then what we saw with Thor was very interesting because Thor has very good dog skills and he will not challenge any of Lily's rude behavior. And she was very controlling with where he went around the room. None of that behavior was by accident. She was completely cutting him off and body blocking him, which is interesting because if you've been watching Doggy Dilemmas for a while, you hear me ask people to do that with their dogs, and here it was a great example of a dog doing that with another dog. And then what we saw with Vesta, the Boston Terrier, was Vesta, being a terrier, is not going to put up with the rude behavior like Thor will. So when she growled at Lilly Bean, which is saying, move away from me, I don't like what you're doing, Lilly Bean thought she might have a fight about that. Then when we tried a second time to get them together, Lilly Bean did something that's called teeing the other dog, which is a perpendicular movement. If you have one dog here, the other dog comes up and comes right across their shoulders and makes a tee. And that's always a precursor to a fight. It's a very rude behavior, and it needs to be interrupted immediately, which is what we did. So Lilly Bean has some dog issues. They won't be solved quickly at all. Thank you for tuning in to Doggy Dilemmas. Be sure to join us next week for another exciting episode.
Having a doggy dilemma? Denise can help. www.denisemazzola.com. Denise Mazzola is a certified professional dog trainer with over 20 years of experience. She specializes in new puppy consultations, rowdy dogs, aggressive dogs, and private lessons.